You got potty, mommy? But you got boogers in your eye. Let me see. Alright, sorry. I had to get the boogies out of your eyes. You had some boogers in your eyes. Sorry. Here. Sit down. Mama got your hand on you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm doing my morning readings and prayers. So if anybody needs prayers today, just put them in the comments and I'll be sure to pray for you. But I'm doing my morning reading and getting my peace. Thank you. Thank you. Do I have any mods in here? Any mods in here this morning? Thank you, Leona. If anybody comes in asking questions, baby, what I'm doing, just let them know I'm doing my morning reading, please. And get them to send their daily heart me's and tap me's, please. I consider the heavens of the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained. What is a man that you are mindful of him, and the son of a man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than the angels, and you have crowned him with glory and honor. You have made him the demon over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, even the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, that pass through the paths of the seas. O Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. Prayer and thanksgiving for the Lord's righteous judgments. I will pray, O Lord, with my whole heart. I will tell you the mysterious works. I will be glad to rejoice in you. I will sing and praise your name on my side. When my enemies turn back, they shall praise your presence. When I maintain firmly in the cause. You said, one prayer, judging and righteousness you have since you have destroyed the wicked, you have blotted out your name forever and ever. You have destroyed cities, even their memory has perished. But the Lord shall endure forever. He has prepared his land for judgment. He shall judge the world in righteousness, and he shall administer judgment on the people in uprightness. For the Lord also will be the refuge for the oppressor, the refuge in times of trouble, and those who know your name will put their trust in you. For you, Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you. Sing praises unto the Lord who dwells in Zion, declare his steps among the people. But he remembers them, he does not forget the cry of the humble. Have mercy on me, O Lord, consider my trouble. For those who hate me Who will lift me up from the gates of death? Will I tell myself of the praise in the gates of the Lord rejoice? The Lord is not about judgment, and his exacting wicked is snare in the lips of his enemies. Meditation. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forgot God. For the needy who shall not always be forgotten, the expectations of the poor shall not perish forever. Arise, O Lord, do not let men prevail. Let the nations be judged into your sight, put them in the fear, O Lord. Let the nations may know themselves, be but the men. Why do you stand afar off, O Lord? Why do you hide in the times of trouble? The wicked in his pride prosecutes the poor. Let them be caught in the plots which they have devised. For the wicked boasts of his heart's desire. He blesses the greedy and entrances the rude. The wicked is his pride. The wicked boast in his heart. He boasts. There you go. Hey. Alright, now let's set this up here because I'm not done reading. I read my first part. Now I'm going to do my morning prayer. Give me a second, guys. Okay. All right, guys. Good morning. How is everybody? How's everybody doing today? I got any mods in here? So, good morning, Wendy. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Here, let's sit here so it blows when you this way, okay? How's that? How's that? You feel it? Okay, good girl. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, Anita. How are you? It's going to be a hot one already. What's the weather where everybody's at? I'm sure it's like 90 here. $71. Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, it's going to be hot everywhere today. We're supposed to get storms about 12 o'clock here. And for the person, Sunflower, my gifts that I'm doing now, yesterday and the day before, we only get paid on Mondays by TikTok. So that's for next week, baby, not this week. It's for next week, not this week. TikTok starts it resets on Sunday night. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will be all this week. And then it'll reset this coming Sunday night for next week. So all the money that I'm making this week, I'll get paid on Monday. This coming Monday. You only get paid once a week from TikTok. So it's not like I raised the money yesterday to get a room yesterday, because it doesn't work that way. Yeah, we only get paid once a week by TikTok, and it's Mondays. They reset every Sunday night. So what I made on Monday, Tuesday, and yesterday, and today, and tomorrow, and Saturday, and half a Sunday will go on for Monday. So I try to set a goal every day. I try to set a $60 goal every day. So when Monday comes, I can get a room for as many days as possible. Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if you were a troll, because you know how the trolls come in here, and I try to give people the benefit of the doubt when they ask the question. So, yeah, so everything from this week I'll get paid on Monday. I'll look at my amount Sunday night and see what I have Sunday night when it resets. And then I'll go online and I'll book a hotel for as many days as I can. And then I usually check in on Monday when I get paid. And that's how I do it. It's cheaper to book online than what it is to walk into a hotel, because if you walk in, they charge you more. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. And some people have messaged me and said that they would prefer to send me a VEN than to send the gifts, because they know with the VEN I'm getting all of it. And some people will send gifts. So, but it is helping me in Brooklyn. It's helping us get a room. We have to wait today to see if this shelter calls me back to get into a shelter. The counselor called me late last night. It was about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. A counselor called me late last night. I don't remember what time it was. I don't know. What time was it, Wendy? 8:30, 9 o'clock she called? 8:30? And she said they were still working on it and she would call me sometime today. So hopefully we can get into the shelter. I mean, the shelter's only a temporary stay. Some are 30 days, some are 60, some are 90. Um, but they, while you're in the shelter, you work with the case management and you work with a caseworker, and they try to get you into transitional housing or they try to get you into a income-based apartment. So I'm praying that I can get into an apartment because they'll also help me with my first month's rent and my first month's security, as long as I can afford the rent. These flies are terrible this morning. And I got some in this car I'm trying to get rid of. I put my fly net up so they don't come in, but I do got a couple in the car. I put my fly net up on my window so they can't come in here. But I still got a couple in here I'm trying to kill. They're driving me crazy. I can't stand flies. They're irritating. Sorry, Mommy. Sorry. I wasn't hitting you, honey. I was trying to hit the fly. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get you. I swear I am. Land somewhere where I can get you because you're getting on my nerves. It's like 2 or 3 of them. I'm trying to get them because they're driving me crazy. You know, as I was saying last night, guys, some people, they never gossip about how I help them, but they'll sure enough kick dirt on my name with the same shoes that I gave them. You know, it's terrible. It's terrible that people do that. You know, and then you got people in here saying, oh, she thinks she's all that. No, I'm not. I'm far from it. I'm far from all that. They think I'm all that. They see something in me that they lack in themselves. So they're threatened. And that's why they stalk me. Because they can't accomplish nothing themselves. They need somebody else to make them accomplish something. Like streaming me and making gifts off of me. So they have to use somebody else as bait. And they call it awareness. That ain't no awareness. Tearing people's dignity down and tearing people's, you know, self-worth down and degrading them and all that stuff. That ain't awareness. That ain't awareness. Thank you, Wendy. I think I've accomplished a lot. I think I've accomplished a lot surviving in this car. Because some people probably wouldn't have been able to do it. You know, I think I've accomplished a lot in this car, surviving another day out here in the heat and getting through the heat, through the day. You know, sleeping up in the seat all night, my legs swelling up and in pain. I don't think half of the people that are streaming me could even survive a weekend. No, baby. No. Yeah. That's what I said. So I've accomplished getting through another day of survival. You know, and people don't understand that. You know, like you said, you would go crazy sitting that long. You know, but if you don't have a car that runs, you know, you can only move it here and there because it's got issues. You can't DoorDash, you can't Instacart. I mean, I was doing all that before my car broke down. There's my car. You know what I mean? I was Instacart and I was DoorDashing. I was doing all the things I needed to do to take care of me. But if my car is not runnable, it's not drivable because it needs a good tune up and timing chains, you know, that I can't afford right now. So yeah, I'm going crazy, you know, but I'm trying to survive another day and get through it. You know, in this heat, it's torture. It's hot, you know, no air conditioning. I got to survive on little fans and swamp coolers, but the swamp cooler don't work in the heat because it's the ice melts too fast. They only work at nighttime. You know, sitting up in the seat and sleeping every night, it takes a toll on your body. Yeah, but the thing is, Lacey, is I try not to drive my car too far. The more you drive it, the worse the condition is going to get. You know, and I don't want to take that chance of driving to go to the park and the chain pop and blow my motor. If I could go to church, definitely I'd be in church. Believe that. If I can make it to a church on Sunday, yeah, I'd definitely be there. Definitely. But churches around here, the only thing they give you is food. Food. They won't help you with shelter. Delaware is the worst state for help. The worst state because they have no resources at all, and all the shelters are run by one number. They put you on the list. You call in every day. Oh, dude started his car and turned the AC on. Can I sit in there with you? Do I have a plan? Well, yeah, I have a plan, but it's not a good one. You know, my plan is to try to get into shelter. My plan is to try to get into shelter so I could be there 30 or 60 or 90 days. Get help with housing, something that I've been doing for the past 3 years, putting applications in, getting on waiting list. I've done Easton, Salisbury, Cambridge, Rehoboth. Uh, I've done a lot of Maryland, a lot of Delaware. I've done some PA. Philadelphia, Roxborough, Pittsburgh. I've put applications into a lot of places that have income-based apartments, um, different counties, different states, because I'm homeless. Um, but I'm on a lot of waiting lists. You know, I've been to different social services in Maryland and Delaware. Um, you know, so my plan is to get into a shelter and have them try to help me with housing. And if I can get into some type of housing, I'll be okay. Whether it's transitional housing or an apartment, my car can sit and I can save the money to get it repaired. I'll just repair it when I can repair it. In the meantime, it'll just sit. But it won't be driven or damaged any more than what it is. So, housing is my first priority. How did I sleep? Well, I took my medicine, I passed out. It didn't take me long to go to sleep, and I did sleep. I zonked out because I was heat exhausted. The heat really got to me yesterday, so I passed out last night. As soon as I went to sleep, I slept. I didn't wake up until it was like 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock when I woke up. This guy over here has got his air conditioner on. I'm most tempted to say, "Hey, can we sit in your car with you? Cool off." And my box died. I gotta find a place to charge that. So my box is dead. That cut off last night about 3, 4 o'clock, I guess. I'm originally from New Jersey. I was born and raised in Jersey, but I lived in a lot of states. Mods, can you watch the door, please? No picture profiles coming in. Can y'all watch the door, please? Yeah, I'm a Jersey girl. Oh, excuse me. I'm a Jersey girl. I was born at Cooper Hospital in Camden, New Jersey. No. No. Like I said, my family were gypsies and they moved. Good morning, Brandon.
My family was gypsies and they moved a lot. My mother's, I gotta watch how I say this. My mother's mother married a really powerful man. Really powerful. She was raised by her grandmother, but my mother would borrow money from the family, and of course we'd be on the run. So, and they're not the kind of people you want to borrow money from and not pay it back. They're definitely not the kind of people you want to borrow money from and not pay it back, because they don't care if you're family or not. When they want their money, they want their money, and they want their interest too. So, but I'm outcasted because I was with an African American man. So I got ditched from the portfolio. I was disowned because Italian people don't go for that. Yeah, but Italian people don't go for that. You know, they're very strict when it comes to their nationality. They're very, very strict. I mean, I still talk to my grandfather and he loves me, but you know, he pretty much disowns me and he's not happy with me. Even though my fiance husband of 25 years is gone. Like I said, we wasn't legally married, but me and Michael were together 25 years. We had the house, we had the car, we had the dogs, we had the bank accounts, we had everything. The only thing that kept us from being legally married was a piece of paper. So, even though Michael's gone, my gramps is still not happy with me. You know, he still likes to use that word that I'm not going to repeat. I don't like it. I don't say it, and I'm not going to repeat it. But yeah, I hear about it all the time. I can't believe you were a da 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 da. And I just tell him, love doesn't have a color. My husband was great to me. You know what I mean? He treated me like a queen. And I tried to get my grandfather to see that. I was spoiled rotten. My husband gave me everything I needed. He took care of me. But my grandfather still didn't want to hear that. He wasn't Italian. So, he said, I'd have rather seen you with a Jewish man. And they don't like Jews either. They don't like Jewish people either. But can't make everybody happy, And love doesn't have a color to me. When you're in love with somebody, it doesn't have a color. You love the person and you're in love with the person for the person. Not for their skin color, not for what they have, not for what they're about. You're in love with a person because you're in love with a person because of the way they treat you and how good they are to you. And that's the way it was with my husband. My husband was a very good man. And he treated me like a queen and he was good to me. So if my family doesn't like it, there's nothing I can do. And if I had to do it all over again, would I choose him? Yes, I'd choose him again. And that's something I'm asked. My grandfather said, if you had it to do all over again, would you choose another one? I said, yes, I would. Yes, I would. So I was disowned from the portfolio. So, and the Duke don't play. When the Duke speaks, he speaks. But like I said, he'll talk to me, because I'm his granddaughter through my grandmother. But he's not happy with me. You know, it is what it is. You know, if my grandmother was alive, I wouldn't be in this situation because my grandmother wouldn't see me in this car. My grandmother would have definitely rented an apartment in her name or co-signed for me to get an apartment. More than likely, I would have gotten the apartment in my name, but my grandmother would have co-signed for me. My grandmother wouldn't see me living in this car because I was her only granddaughter. And my grandmother spoiled me. And my mother hated that. My mother hated that my grandmother gave me more attention and did more for me than what she did for her. But if my grandmother was alive, I wouldn't be in this car. I'd have an apartment, and if I was having a hard time meeting my bills, my grandmother would have paid them. She'd have been on my case, but she'd have helped me. She helped me before when I left my family. I was, what was I, how old was I when I think I was 20. I was 20 or 21 because it was when I was pregnant with Duke. I was pregnant with Duke and I was in a shelter because my parents they A-word me, and I went to a shelter for protection, and me and my children, and I got an apartment, and my grandmother helped me. My grandmother, she took me out and she got me a TV, she got me a living room set, she got me bunk beds for my kids, she got me dishes. My grandmother helped me when I got my apartment back then. And she told me to stay away from my parents. That's her own daughter, but she told me to stay away from them because they do nothing but bring me down. They're not good for me. They're not good for me. And my grandmother told me to stay away from them. Yeah, my grandmother was really special. She was. And that's what my mom hated about our relationship. My mom, she despised my relationship with my grandmother. Like, really despised it. But if my grandmother was alive today, I wouldn't be in this car. I can tell you that. I know my grandma. I didn't call her grandma. I called her my mom. My dad's mom, I called Granny. And my mom's mom, I called my mom. So if my mom was here, I wouldn't be in this situation. Because she would co-sign for me to get an apartment. And she would have paid my rent if I'd have had to. Or half of my rent. She'd have made me at least pay half of it, and she'd have paid the other half. And she'd have been laying my children out for putting me out. So, and, she helped my mom. She helped my mom too. She helped my mom a lot of times. She paid my mom's rent. She would pay my mom's debts. She would, pay my mom's debts. She would pay our electric bill. She bought my mom a car. She bought my mom a washer and dryer. So she did a lot for my mom. But my mom was my mom. My mom was a fucking gypsy. She was a real gypsy. How old's my grandfather? I believe my grandmother was 63 when she passed. My grandfather's in his 80s. I call him Gramps. We call him Gramps. He's in his 80s somewhere. Could be in 90s. His brothers own real estate in South Philadelphia. They got a lot of his family has, they got a lot of businesses. So no. No, my grandfather passed away a couple of years ago. From what I heard. Yeah, he passed away a couple of years ago. And I was told I wasn't allowed to come to the funeral. So, it is what it is. I didn't go. My brother's the only one that went. My brother and his wife. The rest of us kids didn't go. My brother got everything. My brother got all the furniture. My brother got all the money. My brother got everything. He was supposed to give us kids some, but he didn't. My brother got everything. Him and his wife. No. Like I said, I don't talk about that side of my family because, Uncle Louie still alive. He's like in his 70s, probably. Catharine, his sister, is she still alive? I don't know if she's still alive or not. But like I said, I didn't fool with that side of the family. I know his mother's passed. I know his one brother passed. I know his one brother's still alive. I can't remember if his sister's still alive or if she passed, but I heard she passed recently too. So I don't know, because they were all old. They were like in their 80s and 90s. So it is what it is. I just wish my grandmother was still here because I miss her. And as much as I didn't get along with my mom, I wish my mom was here too. I didn't get along with her, but I wish she was here so I could call her. Days that I'm depressed and I'm down, I would call her. We would have some type of decent conversation before we got into a fight, but she's still my mother at the end of the day, and I still miss her. And I'm not gonna lie about it. She was my mom. But no, but my grandfather passed away. Yep. My grandmother passed away first. And then my grandfather passed. I don't know, maybe 10 years later. Because he had a girlfriend. He had a girlfriend after my grandmother. Or a friend. I don't know if you want to call her girlfriend, but he had a friend. I never met her. I never talked to her, but my brother said that he had a friend, girlfriend, whatever, but wasn't none of my business. I could have cared less because they, like I said, they already chalked me off anyway. I don't talk to that side of the family. My mom did, but I didn't. Like I said, she would always borrow money from them, and we'd be on the run. And they're the type of people you don't want to borrow money from. Thank you. You know, they're definitely the type of people you don't want to borrow money from. Trust me, we had some crazy experiences as kids. You know, we lived up in, what was that? New Ringgold? I think it was New Ringgold, Pennsylvania. I remember that incident very well. It was freaking scary. And when I say scary, it was scary. Um, we lived in New Ringgold, and my mom had borrowed money from them again. They found out where we lived, and they told my mother they wanted their money, and they shot our house up one night. They shot our house up one night. My mom and dad packed up the next day and was gone. They got a U-Haul trailer and packed what they could in there, and they were gone again. You know, and then we lived in Pennsylvania. We went from there to Pennsylvania. We lived in that house by the railroad tracks. We were only there about 3 months. They found us there, and they showed up, beat my dad up, and of course we had to leave from there. We moved somewhere else. Finally, my mom paid them back. Everything was cool for a while, but then she borrowed money again. So we were always on the run from her family, from her mom's husband's family. You know, they bought school buses. We lived in pop-ups. You know, we had a pop-up. My dad had a pop-up in a station wagon. And we would just go to different campgrounds every weekend. And then when the pop-up started leaking and it wasn't any good, my dad bought a bus. And he ripped the seats out of it and used the kitchen stuff and the beds from the pop-up in the bus. He built bunk beds, and my mom and dad's bed was in the far back, and then my dad built 4 sets of bunk beds for all of us kids, and then in the front we had a sofa and a chair and a love seat, and then my dad had like a little kitchenette. It had a sink, a stove, and a refrigerator. And we lived in the bus for a while. Then when the bus broke down, my dad bought a motorhome, and we were in a motorhome. We went from there to, I think, Delaware City. I think we went to Delaware City. We lived in Delaware City for a while. And that's where me and my husband separated, my kid's father. That's where we separated because he was living with me there. He came home from the military, and he was living with me there. And he had a a blanket wrapped around him. It was like a goose feathered down blanket that you lay on top of your bed, and he had himself wrapped in it, and he had a can of gasoline because we had a wood stove, and he had the blanket wrapped around me. He threw the gas in the stove. I told him don't do that, but he did it anyway. And when he threw the gas in the stove, from the drips of the gas, when the gas hit the fire, it went whoosh, and then the flame of fire came down the drips of gas and caught the blanket on fire and caught him on fire, and he went in the hospital for 2nd, 3rd, 4th degree burns. And when he was in the hospital, that's when I left him. And then when he got out of the hospital, he went to live with my friend Debbie that comes on here. He lived with Debbie and her mom until he went back home to PA. But that's when I left my kid's father. So, and I was pregnant with my daughter when I left him. But, you know, they're all mixed times. It's not the right time, but that's some of the memories I have. Um, we lived in Tamaqua. We lived in Tamaqua. Um, they had come and got us from school. And that's when my mom paid them back. Um, because they had come and got us kids from school. It was it was my uncle's. I think it was my uncle's brothers or his cousins, somebody. Anyway, it was part of the family that come and got us kids from school. They had me and my two oldest brothers, and they had us in a limousine. And they called my mom and told my mom, "I have your kids. You're either going to pay me your money or you're not going to see your kids." So my mom and dad got up the money and they paid them. And then they got us back. But it was scary. It was definitely scary, and it's all true. We did live a lot of places. We did. We've lived in Florida. We lived in Mississippi. We lived in Louisiana. We lived in Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Virginia. Um, we were in Mississippi for a hot minute. Um, Jersey. Yeah, we lived a lot of places. And any of my family could verify it. My mom and dad were gypsy. Well, it wasn't so much my dad. It was my mom. My mom was a gypsy. My mom was a gypsy. She was my mom was a well organized con artist. She was. I mean, that's the only way I can say it. My mom was a con artist. Um, my mom, she did a lot of people wrong. She did a lot of wrong. She did a lot of people wrong in her day. And my dad didn't like it. My dad and her used to fight all the time about it. My dad hated it, and that's why my dad stayed on the road. He was a truck driver, and when he was doing firewood and logging, they stayed in the woods. My dad hated being around my mom, but they couldn't live with each other and they couldn't live without each other. That's just the way they were. You know, my dad probably felt he couldn't find anybody else. My mom probably felt she couldn't find anybody else. They never left each other, but they would fight from the time they got up in the morning until the time they went to bed. They'd throw coffee at each other, canned goods, clams. Yeah, they did all kind of shit to each other. You know, my mom ran him and his girlfriend over on a motorcycle one time. Yeah, she had us in a station wagon and she caught my dad with a bitch on the back of the bike and she ran him over. That was tragic to watch too. My parents did some crazy shit in their day, and I'm not going to lie. My dad caused my mom to have nervous breakdowns. My mom had several nervous breakdowns. I remember her being committed a couple of times, at least 3 that I can remember, where she was committed into hospitals um, for her mental health issues. She came home, things would be okay for a little while, and then they'd be right back to normal. What I would say was abnormal, but it was normal for them. Um, my mom and dad did some shit in their day, and I'm not gonna say they didn't, but my mom was a true con artist. My mom could sit at the table with you, and before she left your house, she'd have everything in your house. She'd have all your money, and you'd be sitting there butterball naked, looking at yourself, asking yourself what the fuck just happened. That's the type of person my mother was. And it's embarrassing to say. It was embarrassing growing up. Um, and I swore I didn't want to be like my parents. And that's why I raised my children different. You know, when I had my kids, when my kids lived with me, I taught my kids responsibility. You know, they went to school. When they came home from school, they did their homework. After they did their homework, they changed their school clothes. Then they could go outside and play. Then they came in, they did their couple of chores. Then they took their baths and they went to bed. All three of my kids were in bed by 9 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. Friday nights they could stay up late. Saturday nights they could stay up late. Sunday nights they were back on their ritual. And my kids had everything. They had their own room, their own TVs. Back then we had house phones, so they had house phones in their room. Um, you know, my kids had everything they wanted. My kids didn't want for nothing. You know, I worked, I took care of my kids, I supported my kids. Um, the only time I wasn't with my kids is, you know, when I was locked up, when I got locked up for doing stupid shit. You know, I would do a couple of months here, a couple of months there. Um, you know, but I did what I had to do as a mother. You know, and I did what I did what I was taught. I did what I learned. You know, I mean, my mom did the same thing. You know, my mom, if we needed food and she didn't have the money, she'd go write a check and she'd buy food. So that was something I learned. Okay, well, my kids don't have no food. I can go to the store and write a check. And back then, a lot of people, the new generation won't understand it, but the Gen X people will understand it. Back in the day, you could go to any grocery store and write a check and post date it. Like today is whatever date today is. What's today's date? I mean, this was years and years ago. You can't do it today, but you used to be able to do it years ago. Say today's the 20th, and I go into the store. I could say to the manager, "Can I post date the check until Friday?" Today's what, Thursday? Can I post date the check until the 22nd? Yeah, sure. So when you write the check for the food, you put on there the 22nd. So therefore, the store can't deposit your check until the 22nd. So by the 22nd, the money would be in there, so the check would clear. And if it didn't clear, they would call me and say that the check came back insufficient funds and I needed to take care of the check. So I would pay the check and pay the $35, $35 return fee, whatever it was. And I was good. Um, you know, but I did things that I'm not proud of, that I learned from my mom, you know. But I tried teaching my kids not to do it. You know, my mom taught me how to steal when I was young. You know, my mom would take me in the store and she'd put meat and steaks and hamburger and hot dogs in my clothes and in my coat, and I'd have to walk out to the car and put it in the car. You know, that's the kind of things my mom taught me, you know. And I remember the first time I stole for myself, and it was embarrassing. It was totally embarrassing. The first time I ever stole for myself, I was probably 12. I was probably 11 or 12. And the first time I stole for myself, my mom embarrassed the hell out of me. I went in the store, and it was back in the late 70s. It was in the 70s because I was young. So I'm going to say it was the 70s. Back in the 70s, they had these shoes called clogs. I didn't block you. Somebody else must have blocked you. So anyway, I went to the store, and back in the 70s, there was a thing. I'm talking when I was a child, Kim. As a child, I was young. I was a teenage mom. Anyway, I wanted a pair of clogs. I don't know who remembers them. I don't know how old people are on here. But they had these shoes called clogs. And they wasn't the ones that you slip on with the little buckle. It was the whole clog. And It was the whole leather. And I wanted a pair of those. You remember them, Wendy? So I went in the store and I changed my shoes. I took off my flip flops and I put the clogs on. And when I was leaving the store, I got caught by security. And my mother came into the office because they called her in. They had to announce for my mom. I think it was Kmart. I think it was Kmart. It was Kmart or Jamesway, one of them stores. And my mom came into the office and I tried getting my mom to lie for me. I was like, Mom, you told me to do it. She said, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't tell you to steal them clogs. Why would I tell you to steal clogs for yourself? My mom embarrassed the shit out of me, y'all. Like, literally embarrassed the shit out of me. I didn't steal for a long time after that. I didn't. I wouldn't even take a pack of gum because my mother embarrassed me so bad that I never wanted to steal again. And if my mother wanted me to steal, I would tell her no. I would get whippings because my mom would be like, do it. And I'd say no, because when I stole the clogs, I got in trouble. I'm not doing it. She says, I'm telling you to do it. You know, and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And I would run out to the car to my dad and I would tell my dad she was trying to make me steal because after that, I didn't want to steal anymore because, you know, she embarrassed me. You know, I mean, she had me stealing for her and I stole something for myself and she didn't want me to have it. And I got mad at her, so I wouldn't help her steal anymore. Yeah, they were, everybody had them and I wanted a pair. My mom wouldn't buy me a pair. So, you just tried to steal a week ago? No, I didn't, Kimmy. No, I didn't. Anyway, you know, I wanted them and she wouldn't let me have them, you know, so I didn't steal from the store for a long, long time. A long time. Um, you know, and then when you couldn't steal from the stores anymore, my mom came up with another solution. You know, she would change price tags in the store. Um, you know, my mom did a lot of stuff. And I've done stuff, like I said, as a young mother, but I was in my teenage years. You know, I was in my 20s. I did stuff that I'm not proud of, you know. I'm not. Um, I'm not proud of it. You know, but we all make mistakes. But one thing I can say, I can sit here and say that I'm not perfect. You know, I've done a lot of stuff in my life. And it's embarrassing. Um, you know, it's nothing to be proud of. Um, but one thing that I did try to teach my children is don't follow the road that I did. You know, I didn't want them, you know, learning the things that my mom taught me as a child. You know, my parents were manipulators. They knew how to, um, they knew how to manipulate people. Yeah, you know, as a person that my mom was, my mom always, you know, she always found a way to do shit. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, she taught us kids how to do stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I'm not proud of it. You know, but do I do it? No, I don't. If I go in the store, I pay for everything. You know, just like that day they called Walmart on me. You know, first of all, it said that because I had given Brooklyn a toy, I found a little toy for Brooklyn, and I pulled the tag off it and sat it on top of my dog food. And people was like, "Oh, she's not going to pay for that. She's not going to pay for that. She's going to steal it. Watch, watch." No, I didn't. I paid for it. When I got to the register, and saw people stand there, and I scanned one or two items and the light kept coming on, I sat on the cart and I told the woman to scan it. I said, I'm not dealing with it, because I knew that somebody had called because it was loss prevention. And I said to the woman, I said, you go ahead and scan it. And I let her check everything in my bag. I let her check everything in my cart, and she scanned everything. And then people was like, oh, you stole the dog harness. You stole the dog harness. No, I put the dog harness back. There was a couple of things that I picked up and put in my cart that I did not want. And when I stopped before I went to the register, I took stuff out of the cart and laid it up on top of the clothes that I didn't want. Because I was sitting there adding my money up, and I was like, nah, because I got this, I'm not going to get this. Because I got this, I'm not going to get this. And I took 2 or 3 things out of the cart and I laid it up on the clothes. And then I went through the register, and like I said, after I scanned 2 or 3 things, the big things, the light kept coming on, alert, alert, alert. And I knew what it was, so I sat on the cart and I had the lady scan everything. And when she scanned it, I paid for everything. So everything was paid for when I left that store. Like I said, if I can't afford it, I don't get it. I don't need to steal anything. If I can't afford to get it, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not worth it anymore, because they have cameras and people don't realize it, but they watch you. When even self-checkout, they watch you. There's cameras, you know? So if you're scanning dog food and it comes up a t-shirt, it's going to be alerted to security. So there's no way of scamming Walmart unless you're a pro at this new bullshit. But I don't do it. So, but I know for a fact everything that you scan at Walmart, you're on camera. So no, I don't steal from Walmart. I don't steal from any of the stores. I don't have to. Like I said, if I can't pay for it, I don't get it. Yeah, you will. You'll get caught. People think they can get away with it. You know? But first of all, whether you pay for cash, credit card, debit card, they have cameras. And they can literally go back to the time you come in the store, and they can follow your vehicle, and they can get your vehicle tag number and show up at your house. That's how boosters get caught. You know, that's how Duke got caught. You know, he would push shopping carts full of shit out, load it in the car, and he thought he was free and clear. And they rolled the cameras back, got the tag number, and they found out where he lived, or where the person lived that took him. And of course, they would rat Duke out. So, you know, but Duke had an addiction. So, in Duke's time of addiction, he did a lot of stuff. He did a lot of stuff. And as his mom, I'm ashamed of it. I'm embarrassed by it. And I used to fight with him all the time about it. People that know me and follow me know that. You know, I won't take Duke to a store. I wouldn't take Duke to get blood. I wouldn't take Duke to do anything, because the minute Duke got money, he would be chasing his he would be chasing his demons. And I didn't want him getting high. So, but he always found a way. He'd find somebody else to take him. He'd find somebody else to take him to get his stuff. You know, you can't stop them. If they want to do it, they're going to do it. You know, but like I said, what Duke did during his addiction, that's Duke's business. And, he'll tell you what he did. But there's a lot of things that he did that I'm embarrassed by. And did I know he was doing them? No. Some of the things I did not know he was doing until after the fact, when the cops showed up at the door. and said blah 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 blah. It's like, what? It's like, yeah. I said, well, I wouldn't doubt it. The cop looked at me. I said, if you're here for my son Duke, I believe whatever you're getting ready to tell me. You know. So the cops knew my son, where we used to live. And they knew I had nothing to do with it. They knew I had problems with Duke. And the cops told me time and time again to put him out, don't let him in, because he was always causing problems at my house. But like I told the cop, at the end of the day, that's my son. That's my son. I'm not going to see my son on the street. Do I approve what he does? No, but he's an adult and he makes his own choices. And if he gets locked up for shit he's doing, that's on him. I can't stop him. I can't make him. He's going to do what he wants to do. And if you do the time, you got to do, if you do the crime, you got to do the time. That's the theory. You know, I've done my time. Anytime that I got locked up, I've done my time. And I used my time valuable. I didn't let my time do me. I would go to the library, I would study law. I did self-help on myself. Self-help was the main thing because I needed to know why I was the way that I was and why I did the things I did, why I was treated the way I was treated. So I was doing a lot of research on self-help. I wanted to know why I was SA'd. I wanted to know why I was PA'd. I wanted to know why I felt the way I felt. Um, so I did a lot of research on myself. And I used my time wisely. Then I went to school. I was going to school to work on getting my GED. Before I left prison, I had taken my GED test for the second time, and I failed by 3 points. 3 points. I failed by 3 points from getting my GED, and I was disappointed in myself. I was disappointed in myself for that because I was working really hard for it and I really wanted it. Um, but unfortunately, I didn't get it. I missed it. And after I got out of prison, I just never went back for it. But one day I would like to take the time. I mean, it's not going to do me no good now. I mean, but I would at least like to accomplish that. I said I would like to do some online courses and work on getting my GED. At least I could say I did that for myself. And that's why I stress to all my kids and all my grandkids. My son graduated, my daughter graduated. The only one that didn't graduate was Duke. All my grandkids have graduated. So I'm a proud great grandma for that. All my grandkids have graduated but one, which was Brandon. But we knew Brandon wasn't going to graduate because he's like his dad. But all my other grandkids have graduated, and I got one more to go, and that's Sophia. And then all my grandkids will have graduated but one, and I got 8 grandkids. So, but I stress to all of them that education is important. When we would talk about my education, I would tell them. When they would come and visit me and bitch about school, they hated school and whatever. And I used to tell my grandkids, I wish I could go back to school and get my GED. I wish I would make the time and do it because, your high school diploma is very important. Nowadays you need your high school diploma or a GED for something, for a job or, whatever. You still need your education, So, like I said, one day I'm hoping that I'm able to get it back and redo it. I really would. And that's the truth. Just so I can say I accomplished something for myself from my younger years. You know? You know, I said, people ask me, People ask me, if you had one thing to go back and do to accomplish, what would it be? And I told them my GED. If I had one regret and had to go back and do it all over again, I would have graduated or I'd have got my GED. And if I can accomplish that in my 60s and get my GED, I'd feel proud of myself. Even if I didn't use it for anything, I would still feel proud of myself for doing it. So, somebody asked a prison question, but I guess it got deleted. So, like I said, there's a lot of things that I'm not proud of. And I'll be the first one to say it. You know, I made mistakes in my life. You know, I've made mistakes in my life. And I'm not proud of it, you know, and I don't boast about it, but I talk about it, because some things in life ain't worth doing, you know. And stealing is one of them, because nowadays they're going to catch you. They got cameras everywhere, you know, and it's not worth it. It's not worth, not even a pack of gum or a pack of meat, I get that people are hungry and people are stealing food, but it's not worth it if you get caught, because, say you steal a $20 pack of hamburger, that $20 pack of hamburger is going to cost you a record, you know, it's going to cost you a record for stealing. And a record can be held against you for a lot of reasons. And that's one thing that I wish I had never gotten as a person, and that's my record. I wish that I could turn back the hands of time and figure out another way to my solution than what I did to get charges. Because my record is going to be with me for eternity, They use it against me for everything. They use it against me for an apartment. They use it against me for my job. If I have to go to court, they use it against me. Even if I'm a witness, they use it as character witness, to see whether I'm telling the truth or not. Credible witness, they use your record against you for everything nowadays, for a job, for an apartment, for a car. People judge you based on your record. And if I could go back in time and change not getting charged with anything, I would. That would be the only thing that I would change from my past. I wouldn't change nothing else. I'd probably still have my kids. I'd probably still went through some of the shit I went through. But the only thing I wish that I could change is my record. I wish I had never gotten a charge. I wish I had never been charged. Because it's not good. Having a record is not good for you. And I tell everybody, when people want to fight or they get into a fight, I tell them it ain't worth it. It's not worth getting a charge and getting a record over. Yeah, we get mad, we get angry, but it's not worth getting an AC or any of that. It's not worth it. It's not worth it because it goes against your record. Like I used to work at the casino. I had to be bonded working for the casino. When I went to get my gaming license and my license I needed to work at the casino, I had to go through a bond. I had to go through a check. I had to go through all of that. And I got approved for my license. And I worked for the casino for several years, a couple of years. And, you know, I had to stay clean. I had to have a clean record. But now that I got a record, I can't get another job at a casino because I have a record now. And, at a young age, being a young mother, I had credit. Credit's another thing that I would change. Um, when I was young, I had every credit card you can imagine. I was probably 20, 21. I had Amico gas station, if anybody remembers them. I had Amico, I had Exxon, I had Firestone, I had JC Penney's, I had a Capital One, I had an American Express, I even got a Sears card. And Sears is hard to get. I even had a Sears. Um, I had, like I said, I had several credit cards, several. And I made my payments. I paid, like my American Express, I had to pay off within 30 days. Some of my other cards I could just make payments on. And I was doing good with my credit. My credit was really good. I had like a 800 and something. And when I moved back home with my parents, when I was pregnant with my daughter, my parents asked if they could use my credit cards. And I was like, no, not really. But they manipulated me and talked me into letting them use them. And of course, my dad ran up my Firestone, putting tires on the cars. They run up my gas station cards. They run up my American Express. Um, when it come time to pay my cards, my family wouldn't pay them. And I fucked up my credit. So if I could go back to do that, I wouldn't allow anybody to use my credit. You know, um, I wouldn't allow anybody to use my credit at all. But then I re-straightened my credit out. I started getting it back, and I got some credit cards back, and I started rebuilding my credit. Then I got locked up, so I couldn't pay it. So that messed up my credit again. And then when I got with Michael, I got one or two credit cards again, started straightening my credit out again. And then Michael got locked up, so I couldn't pay the credit cards again. So, and then after Michael passed, I started rebuilding my credit again, which I'm working on now. My car payments, my shed payments, one of my credit cards. I only have one credit card. It's a store credit card, but I pay my payments, and I'm trying to rebuild my credit now. So, my credit score is not bad, but I'm at a 560. A 560 is better than a 300, what I was. So, there are two things that I wish that I had never messed up in my life. And one was having a record, and two, messing up my credit, allowing people to mess up my credit, you know. But things happen, but I'm trying to rebuild some type of credit now again, because nowadays you need credit for everything. You need credit for an apartment, you need credit to get a phone, you need credit for this, you need credit for that. So I'm trying to at least build some type of credit report, I was working on it. I was working on sending letters in to all the agencies, Equifax, Equiform, all them people to get all the old stuff removed off of my credit report. But then, I ended up in the car and I stopped doing that. But once I get settled again, I got a lot of goals that I want to work on. One is trying to get my credit report some type of decent. Um, I want to try to get some of my charges expunged off my criminal record. And there's some things that I want to do, and I have to research them, and I got to do it. Like I said, do I regret some of the things I've done? Yes. Have I ever said I was perfect? Fuck no. Fuck no. But I don't do half of the shit, not even 80% of the shit my mother did or my mother taught me. I have done some of it, and I'm not proud of it, but it's what I was taught. It's what I was learned. I was learned that was the way of life, and that's how you did things. But again, like I said, I was a child, and it was in my mind. That's yeah, yeah. Wendy, when I was with Judy could tell you, and Judy told people, when I was with Judy and I was making money, I was banking money. Judy, I had money in Judy's room that was cash. I had over $10,000 cash that Judy slept on, and Judy told people that. I had 10,000 cash. And Judy slept on it. That's not including the money my husband and I had in the bank. Judy slept on that cash. But it's where all my cash started disappearing is when Gigi got sick. When Gigi got sick and Duke came home from prison. I started spending money on Gigi at vet after vet after vet after vet. And my money was running low. Then I had to get loans and stuff like that. And then Duke was stealing money from me. He was stealing money from my games. And, you know, it put me back in a hole. So there went my money, you know. But my husband, that's one thing my husband liked about me. I could save money, you know. And if I could get a place of my own and go back to doing my little side hustle that I do, I could save money. I could save money to pay things off of my credit, get things removed off of my credit, build my credit back up so that I could get myself a new car, Get a new car without, high interest rate, or even if it's a small, cheap car, My payments would be small and the interest would be small. But even nowadays, because one of my friends, her score is like an 830, and she just bought a Honda Civic. She bought a Honda Civic, and her payments are still high. She pays like almost $400 a month for the Honda Civic, and her interest rate is, I don't know, like 16-17% at an 830. I'm like, damn. So I guess cars ain't as cheap as they used to be. I remember when I bought my Ford Escort, which was my very, very first brand new car. I bought a Ford Escort back in, I had my daughter and I had my son. My daughter was born in 82. So I'm going to say it was like 84. Was my Escort at 84 or 85? I want to say 84. I want to say it was at 84. It was the year Ford Escorts came out. So if anybody can look up that year, that'll tell you. I know it was in the 80s. I went and got a Ford Escort. And it was a standard shift because it was cheaper. It was cheaper than an automatic. An automatic was more money. So I bought just a basic, it was just a basic Ford Escort. Um, Roll down windows, nothing power. And it was a 5 speed. Um, Back then, when I bought that car, my payments were only $99. And I think the car cost me, I don't know, it was like $7,000 or $8,000 back then. It was like seven or $8,000. It was under 10,000, but my payments were $99 a month. And where I messed up with that car, again, because I had credit, and because it was my first time buyer, I had to have a co-signer, which was my dad. I allowed my dad to co-sign for me. And because my dad co-signed for me, my dad was very determined that I give him the car payments so he could pay the car payment because he didn't want his credit ruined. That was the biggest mistake in my life. That was the biggest mistake of my life. Believing that my dad was paying my car insurance and my dad was paying my car payment. Because he wasn't. My dad had a dually pickup that he had. My brother had an S10 pickup. My other brother had a Ford Ranger. I got the Escort. And then my other brother got what's the name of that little car? It was a not a, is it a Ferrari? Not a Ferrari, a Ferrero. It was a Ferrero. It was just a little 2-seater. It only sat 2 people. But it wasn't a Ferrari, it was a Ferrero. And my dad co-signed for all of us. And my dad made us give him the payments for our insurance and for our cars. And sure enough, Daddy didn't pay it. He was at the casino. And the next thing I knew, they were chasing me down, taking my car. They got my car first. Then they got my brother's pickup, the Ranger. Then they got my baby brother's Ferraro. And then they got my dad's truck. And the last one that they were chasing down was my brother's S10. He had a Sundance S10. And they were looking for it. But my brother worked his ass off to catch his payments up. So he wound up keeping it. He wound up keeping it because he was able to catch his payments up. So, but he kept on the run with it until he caught his payments up. But he was the only one that was able to keep his car. And it's sad that my dad did that to us, but he did. Then I bought myself a Pinto. I bought myself a little Pinto. And of course, my dad didn't like it. You can't have that. You can't have that. I said, why can't I have it? It was a cheap car. I think I paid like $500 for it. No, because if somebody hits you in the ass and with those kids in there, the car's going to explode, blah, 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 blah. So my dad made me get rid of it. And then I got a Gremlin. I had a little Gremlin. And then I got rid of that. I've owned, since a kid, I've owned an Escort, a Pinto, a Gremlin. I had a Cobra Mustang. I had a GT Mustang. I had my Camaro. What else did I have? Then I got with Michael. Our first car was a Chrysler LHS. Then we got the Lexus 400. Then we got the Lincoln Continental. And then we got the Saturn. Oh, we had the little green car, whatever that was. I think it was a Saturn. Then we got the wagon, the little Saturn wagon. Then we got the Jeep Cherokee. And then we got this. And that's all the cars that Michael and I owned. And they all got paid off. They all got paid off. I didn't owe no money on none of them. And I established credit with that from my cars. And I got, oh, I forgot about the one car. We had Michael and I had a Grand Prix. We bought a Grand Prix while we had the Lincoln. And it was our second car. And I was working for Miss D down at Club Miami on the block down in Baltimore. And I managed Club Miami, which was a strip club. I managed Club Miami for Miss D. And we had gotten a second car. And I went up to Liberty Ford in Randallstown. And me and Mike were there all day. We put $1,000 down. And my payment was $600 a month. But we got it. And when we got the car, they put this thing called a pastime on there. And the car only had, I don't know, like 10,000 miles on it. And I kept having problems with the car. The car wouldn't start. And my payment was made. And I would call them and say the car won't start. So then I'd have to get the box out of the glove box and I'd have to enter a new code. Then the car would start. Then I'd come out again, the car wouldn't start. I had to call them again to get a new code. And then one day me and Judy went to the grocery store. And Judy knew my payment was paid because I paid the payment. Me and Judy got stuck at the goddamn grocery store for 3 hours trying to get the daggone car started. So finally I had enough of it. And I told them, I said, I'm paying $600 a month. I've had this car back to you guys 3 times. And the car's still not right. And I'm not paying $26,000 for a Grand Prix that's not running correctly. If y'all can't fix the problem, then I don't want the car. Here to come to find out, the car that they sold me was a flood car from Hurricane Katrina from Louisiana. And that's why the car kept having so many problems. Because it was a flood car. So I sent it back. I did a voluntary repo. I took everything out of my car and I called them and I told them to come and get it. And the first week passed, they didn't come and get it. The second week passed, they didn't come and get it. The third week she called me. Mike had the Lincoln. That's the day my Lincoln got totaled. Mike took my Lincoln and went to work. And on his way to work, some guy crossed the line and hit him head on, totaled my car. But I thought it was Mike calling me, and I answered the phone because Mike had just left. I thought it was Mike calling me, and it wasn't. It was the credit card people, the loan people. And I told her, I said, I'm going to tell you what time is it? I said, it's 8 o'clock. If you ain't here by 10 o'clock to get it, I'm going to set it on fire. And then you could collect the insurance money. Well, they were there and picked it up. And I sent it back. I did a voluntary repo. That's why it says voluntary repo. But a voluntary repo is the same thing as a repo. So, it doesn't make it easier. But if you go for another car and you're trying to do a credit, they do take it into consideration because it was a voluntary repo and not an actual repo of me not making the payment. I just refused to pay $26,000 for a car that wasn't running correctly. They sold me a lemon. It was a flood car. And I wanted to get a lawyer and take them to court, but Mike wouldn't let me. Mike was a peacemaker. Mike didn't believe in all that shit. He was like, "Boo, let it go. Just let them have the car. Just get the car back. Let it go." I said, "But Boo, they sold us a lemon." He said, "It doesn't matter, Boo. Let it go. Just send the car back. If they want to put it on your credit, let it on your credit. It'll be there 7 years, 10 years. They'll take it off." So we sent it back. I did a voluntary repo. It's the only car that I gave up. The rest of my cars were paid off. So when I do go for a car, I mean, I do have paid off cars on my credit. So it does help me when I go to purchase a car. But nowadays, because I'm upside down on this car, if this car was paid for, I could go somewhere and probably trade it in and get a new car for like $500 to $1,000 down. But because I owe money on this car, I'm flipped. So if they were to pay this car off, they would take the $3,000 that I owe on this car and add it to the new car. So therefore, it's going to make my down payment higher, which is probably going to be $1,500 to $2,500 down, or $5,000, depending on what car lot. And they're going to add this $3,000 to the balance on my new car. So I'm flipped upside down, so I won't trade it in. I won't trade it in. And I can't trade it in because the loan people have the title for it. Because I did a Maryland loan and it's got a Delaware tag. So because it has the Delaware tag, they gotta hold the title until I paid off. Now if it was if I lived in Maryland, they would have just put a lien on my title. But because it's a Delaware title, they have to hold it until I pay the loan off. So, but I'm going to flip on this car. And it drives me crazy that I can't get it repaired because, I know if I got it repaired, it would last me another couple of years, 5 years, other than basic fixes, because damn near everything on this car has been fixed. It's got a new computer. I put in a new computer on this car, rebuilt the transmission. I've done a lot of work on this car. So now the only thing left was the timing chain, and it's still got a misfire. So I'm sure if I did a complete tune-up and changed the timing chains, this car would take me another 5-10 years. Other than minor wear and tear. So but it's cheaper than going and buying a car. $2,000 to get it repaired is cheaper than going to buy a car that I don't know nothing about that could have the same problems. I know about this car. I know what parts has been on this car. I know what's been fixed on this car. So it's cheaper for me to get the car repaired and to keep my car than what it is for me to try to go buy a new car. And people don't understand that. I weigh my options all the time, and I try to use my best options, my best of everything, why trade this in and have to put $1,500 down or $2,000 down, $2,500 down, get another car that I can have 30 days, not even 30 days, and something go wrong with it. And then I got to fix that car. It's cheaper just for me to fix this car and to keep this car. It's common logic sense. A lot of people think because their cars break down, oh, let's just go buy a new car. But if you use your common sense, If you've had a car as long as I've had this car and you know the work that you put into the car and it's something that can be fixed and the problem solved and the car will run, why not fix it? And that's what people don't understand what I'm trying to say. And people think I'm lying about my timing chain, but I'm not. I have no reason to lie about it. My car needs a good, complete tune up and it needs my timing chain. And I wish I knew a mechanic that I can give money down and pay in payments or at least give me a price that I can work with to fix it. But I don't know anybody. And my counselor, she's doing some research. She's doing some research because she was talking to me about you know things that I've forgotten about that can be done with trade schools and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I said, I never thought about that. So she's going to look into that to see if there's a trade school that is willing to take my car and have the students repair my car. They do it for donations or for a certain price. But they, because the kids are going to school to learn mechanic work, they take cars in and work on cars. And then you donate money or you pay a certain fee to the school. So she was going to look into that because her cousin had her pickup done that way through the trade school. She said she was going to look into it and see if they still do that. And I don't know if the techs around here do it or not, but she was going to look into it. It's hot, mommy. As long as you got this little fan on you, we're okay. Stay there. Stay there. Hold on. Hold on. Come here. Ooh, what you doing? Hold on. Hold on. Hold still. There you go. Good girl. There you go. Okay, now you're wet and you're cool. So lay back down. There you go. There you go. Let me rub your belly down. There you go. There you go. Feel better now? Yep. There. Yep. You lay down. I get it, Mama. Hold on. There you go. Hold on, Mommy. You gotta stay up so the fan will stay on you. There you go. There you go. Hey. There you go. Lay still, Mama, so the fan stays on you. It's hot. There you go. I want you to stay cool, okay? Please. It's hot. There you go. There you go. There you go. No, don't shake it off. You gotta stay wet. Gotta stay wet, wet. There you go. You gotta stay cool. Okay? It's too hot. I don't want you to have a heat stroke, okay? You're okay. You're wet. You're wet enough. I wet you down. I know it was cold. But it feels good now, doesn't it? You feel good now, don't you? Sorry, y'all. Let me put my glasses on so I can see comments. I was study talking. Thank y'all. Yeah, my goal is to keep her cool. I'm good, Jaden. How are you? My goal is to keep her cool. As long as I keep her wetted down with cool water. And she has it's a dog collar. It's called a cooling collar. You wet it with ice water and you put it on them and it keeps them cool for like 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on how hot it is. And that's what I just put on her. They're really good for dogs for the summertime. I had them for my bullies, and because she's so small, I had to put safety pins on it for it to fit her. But this is what they're called. They're called a canine chillin. They're called canine chillin collar, and you can put them in the freezer or you could dip them in ice water. And they're a material that stays cool, and you put it on the dog, and it keeps them cool. And they work too. They work for like bullies and they work for all dogs really, but I bought them for my bullies because we used to go to dog shows in the summertime and it'd be hot. So my dogs had uh, kennels that had air conditioning. I used to have to use a generator, and it was a cooling thing. So I would put them in their air conditioning with a cooling collar. So when I would take them out to the ring and they would be hot from being in the ring, when I put them back in their kennels, they would cool off. So I wish I had a cooling kennel for her, but I don't. Because if I had a small cooling system for her, she'd be in it. Like I said, I could sweat. She's the one I worry about. And I keep wetting her down with cool water, ice water. And she doesn't like it when I first wet her down because the water's cold. But after she gets wet and she realizes I'm not putting any more ice water on her, she's cool with her collar, so she'll lay down and go to sleep like she is. And that's what she's doing. She's laying here. She's got her little fan blowing on her. And she'll lay here. And she's the only one I worry about. Me, I sit here and sweat. Hold on, y'all. So I just keep wetting the wash rag and wet her down and keep her cool. It's the best I can do. Oh my God, boy, would I love that has set up. That's a Jayco. Here, I'll lay this on you while it's wet. Here you go. Here you go. How's that? Oh, look at her little tail wagging. Look at her little tail wagging. I see her little tail wagging. That feel good? Yeah, that feels good, doesn't it, Mama? How's my gallery look, guys? I haven't checked it. How's the gallery? Have we met our goals yet? I can pin that. All right, let's pin that. Thank you. Thank you. Is that the daily heart me's? Or is that the hearts? Why does it say 100? What the hell? Is that the regular hearts, y'all, or is that the daily heart me? Let's edit that. There we go. There we go. Hey, Roller Barbie, what's up? So how many more daily heart me's we need? Has it been completed or we still need add now? All right, so let's do, hold on, Mama. Edit gift gallery. I guess let's do the Wink Me's. Let's do the awesome. Let's do the chili. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. I'm good. Yes, I live in my car. Thank you, Chillin. I appreciate it. Thank you, Anita. Thank you. Thank you, Leona. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. All right, so now we just need the awesome. So now we just need the awesomes, I think. No? No, it's been completed, right? Thank you, Anita. Goal achieved. Awesome. Let's change it again. No, we still need the pepper. We still need the pepper, y'all. Yes. Okay, add now. All right, so let's go in and edit, add gift. Let's do, mm, let's do, all right, guys, now we got a new goal up there. I haven't checked that. People tell me to check my daily thing, and I have no idea how to check that. I have no idea how to check that. So if somebody could check it and tell me the balance, you know, I could tell y'all. Tick leap or some shit. I don't know. I don't know how to check that. I think we're working for the third or fourth day. I can't remember. Somebody has to check my tick leap. Does anybody know how to check that? I don't know how to check it. It says 61 cents, but it wants memberships to look at all the totals of past days, but hasn't updated yet. Oh, okay. So it's not updated yet, Natalie? Hold on, let's see. Let me see something. Weekly. Huh. I don't know how to look at that shit. I don't know, guys. I don't understand that. Hold on one second, guys. I don't understand that. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry, y'all. I wanted to check my voicemails to make. Sorry, y'all. I wanted to check my voicemails to make sure